Werner Schmidt deserves to be remembered. He passed away on March 29th, 2024, but I only found out about it this week when I got back the Christmas card I'd sent him. Werner has the distinction of being one of only 3 Reform MPs to opt out and stay out of the gold-plated MP pension plan. Werner had his master's degree in education. He was a teacher, principal, and superintendent of schools. He was serving as the vice president of Lethbridge Community College in 1973 when he tossed his name into the ring to be the leader of Alberta's Social Credit Party. The Social Credit Party ruled Alberta for 36 years until Peter Lougheed's Progressive Conservative Party won the 1971 election. Former Premier Harry Strom, Premier from 1968 to 1971, remained leader of the Socreds for a couple years until resigning in 1973. 4 candidates ran to replace Strom. Former Education Minister Bob Clark was the frontrunner and expected to win the leadership with half of the party's MLAs backing him. Werner surprised many by coming second on the first ballot, and then rallied the supporters of the 2 other dropped candidates to come from behind and win the Socred leadership race. Unfortunately for Werner, the 1975 election saw the Socreds lose most of their seats, including the one that Werner was running to get. But Werner wasn't done with his desire to serve his country. The Schmidt family moved to Kelowna, BC in the early 1980s, where Werner joined the Reform Party. He ran for the Reform Party in the 1988 election, finishing 4th with 15% of the vote. Undeterred, he ran again in the breakthrough 1993 election, where he won his Kelowna riding, putting him in the new wave of Reform MPs heading to Ottawa. On January 24th, 1994, Werner gave his maiden speech in Parliament. That's usually an opportunity for MPs to thank their constituents, talk about their riding and the issues that motivated them to seek elected office. Werner used his to talk about how to get the economy moving. Prophetically, 31 years ago, Werner spoke of embracing new technologies like artificial intelligence. And I quote, "We need to understand that we have a new economy in which huge profits are no longer possible by simply making and moving things. The main producers of wealth and economic production have become information and knowledge, specifically biotechnology, artificial intelligence, the business of space, and the creation of new materials." End quote. He pushed for a rethink of big government and the state's role in the affairs of the private sector. I quote, "We need to develop a new role for government. We need a government that acts as a facilitator and not as a benefactor, and regulator supreme. We need a government that adopts principles of development that encourage growth and the application of private efforts, as opposed to pandering to the pressures of self-serving special interests. By changing our attitudes, thinking big ideas, and establishing a new role for government, we are building on a solid foundation that some have called ordered liberty. It is this ordered liberty that has given us excellence in art, discovery in science, and has undergirded the ethic of work and the ethic of service. It has tempered freedom and internal restraint, inspired public virtue, and the inner impulse to do good, and has sent legions into battle against disease, oppression, and bigotry. It has built hospitals and orphanages. Finally, it has given mercy a human face." End quote. Werner was a thoughtful, intelligent man, and his words still ring true today. That initial class of Reform MPs was a splash of cold water in the face of the establishment in Ottawa. One thing that set them apart is that Reform MPs opposed the gold-plated MP pension plan. The entire 1993 class of Reform MPs publicly opposed how generous the pension plan was. They weren't opposed to the concept of MPs getting pensions, but just how rich the scheme was. In 2012, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation calculated that for every $1 an MP contributed to the plan, taxpayers kicked in 25. This was because contributions to the MP pension plan aren't invested in the market like normal pension plans. They are gifted returns on their contributions by taxpayers. In other words, taxpayers kicked in extra secret money in lieu of actual market-achieved investment returns. In 2012, this amounted to a guaranteed, risk-free 10% annual return on investment, all paid with tax dollars. In 1995, the Chrétien government amended the MP pension plan in an attempt to get Reform MPs to get on side. The bill also allowed MPs to opt out of the MP pension plan. All 52 Reform MPs plus 9 others from various parties opted out of the MP pension plan. During the debates on this bill in 1995, Werner said, and I quote, "The time has come for everyone to recognize that the current pension plan is obscenely generous. Even if the changes proposed in Bill C-85 were implemented, they would still be obscenely generous," end quote. He went on to say, "Mr. Speaker, I would like you and all the rest of the members of the House to know that I have chosen to opt out of the plan. It was a very conscious and deliberate decision on my part," end quote. Yet in 1998, the Chrétien government made additional changes to the MP pension plan and gave Reform MPs the opportunity to opt back into the plan. Unfortunately, nearly every Reform MP opted back into the gold-plated MP pension plan over the next few years. However, 3 MPs, Reform Party founder Preston Manning, Lee Morrison, and Werner Schmidt, stayed out. Werner never publicly chastised his fellow Reform-turned-Canadian Alliance MPs for their decision to opt back in. In 2012, he stated, and I quote, "These are all individual decisions, and I'm certainly not prepared to commend myself or do anything otherwise to someone who didn't. I made a promise, and I stuck to it. That's it. You say what you're going to do, well, then you better do it, and that's what I did," end quote. The CTF has long opposed the gold-plated MP pension plan. Often, we were the only ones who calculated and publicized how much MPs were going to get in retirement. We've never said that MPs should receive nothing. Our position always has been the same as Werner's. MPs should not be entitled to a richer and more generous pension plan than regular Canadians can get. For decades, we fought the gold-plated pension plan. We put 242 pink plastic pigs on the lawn of Parliament building in 1995 to protest being shut out of the MP pension plan hearings. But it was in 2012 that we saw an opportunity to put a significant dent into the plan. We ran billboards nationwide showing the $25 to $1 contribution ratio. We organized thousands of Canadians to bombard the offices of every MP, calling for reforms to the plan. And on the day that MPs returned to Parliament in the fall, we ran a 2,000 square foot banner behind a plane that flew around Parliament that read, "Back to work, MPs, fix your pensions." The pressure tactics worked, and the Harper government made the most significant positive reform to the MP pension plan that we have ever seen. The contribution rate changed significantly for MPs elected in 2015 and after. Not to the $1 for $1 defined contribution plan that we have called for, but more like $1.54 from taxpayers for every $1 contributed by an MP, still in a defined benefit pension plan. Prime Minister Harper also gave up his special prime ministerial top-up that was worth $1 million to him alone. The next summer, in June 2013, the CTF celebrated the Reform MPs who opted out and stayed out of the MP pension plan with our highest honor, the Tax Fighter Award. I attended the awards in Calgary and was honored to shake the hands of Preston Manning, Lee Morrison, and Werner Schmidt, and thank them for their sacrifice. Each of them commented on how they didn't do it for the praise, but rather because they felt it was the right thing to do. Werner Schmidt and his family made a significant financial sacrifice because he was a man of principle. During that 1995 debate in Parliament on the MP pension plan, Werner said, and I quote, "We have calculated the cost. We know the cost and have said that we want to pay the costs as all other Canadian citizens have to pay a cost to retire," end quote. Earlier this week, I asked our staff to go back and do the math on just how much Werner Schmidt sacrificed. We estimate that Werner would have been eligible to receive a $40,000 annual pension starting in 2006. In total, we estimate that between 2006 and 2024, Werner could have received $846,000 worth of MP pension payments. Only a moral, decent man of honor like Werner Schmidt would have passed up nearly $1 million because it was the right thing to do. Thousands of MPs over the years have taken the easy route. Werner took the hard one. I'll leave you with one final word from Werner, and I quote, "There is another vision for Canada, a vision of responsibility, a vision of leading the country into a moral position that says we treat taxpayers' money as a public trust with the same jealousy and with the same concern as we have for our own, end quote. Werner, you did just that. Rest in peace.